Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Family Law Talk, presented by Kirk Stange of Stange Law Firm, PC. Stange Law Firm is a family law firm in the St. Louis metro area, with offices in Missouri and Illinois. Now, here's your host, Kirk Stange.
Welcome to Family Law Talk. We've got an exciting episode today. The title of the episode is Changing the Last Name of Children. This is based on an article on our webpage, familylawheadquarters.com, dated March 31st, 2015. The title of the article is When Can a Child's Last Name Be Changed? And so as a follow-up to the episode, you can click on the link below the episode on Blog Talk Radio and read the article itself. We're going to get to that topic here in just a second, but I'll state, as I always do, that the choice of a lawyer is an important decision that should not be based solely upon advertisements, and that the information you obtain today in this episode is general in nature, and it may not apply to a specific factual or legal circumstance. Therefore, if you need legal advice, you should definitely consult an attorney who's licensed and competent to practice law in your jurisdiction. All right, so on to the topic. And again, the topic deals with changing the last name of children. And this is a common topic in family law litigation, and really a common issue that comes up in lots of cases in family law litigation, because the reality of the situation is this. In the United States at the moment, the data is that approximately 4 out of 10 kids are born out of wedlock, and this is a stat that's been on the rise, continues to rise. And you know, practically speaking, I'm not making any judgment on the data itself. It just is what it is. I mean, that's the data that's out there from the U.S. Census Bureau. And over time, this number has been going up quite a bit. It's realistic to think that at some point, more kids could be born out of wedlock than in wedlock, the way that, you know, things are really trending in the United States. I know to a lot of folks, it doesn't please them to know that that's the data, but it just is the data. And so in terms of the family law sphere, it's been kind of a changing area of the law in a lot of ways, especially over the last decade or two, where you just see an increase in what's called paternity cases, which is, in layman's terms, really just a custody case between unmarried parents, and these cases also involve child support. So, you know, child's born out of wedlock. Lots of folks end up at the courthouse litigating what's called this paternity case, and the issue becomes how child custody is going to work and what's going to happen with regard to child support. So who's paying child support to who and in what amount. And then, of course, the court considers those other issues like health insurance. You know, who's going to cover health insurance, and when or if the child goes to college, you know, who's going to cover that issue. And in short, these paternity cases are, in a lot of ways, very similar to the process of a divorce. Of course, a divorce, the folks are married, so you're dealing with dissolving the marriage, and then you get into issues like dividing the property and debt, and then spousal support comes into play in a divorce proceeding. Obviously, in a paternity case, you're dealing with the issue of who's dad. In a lot of cases, it's not in dispute. In some cases, maybe it is, but in a lot of cases, not even in dispute. Everybody knows who the dad is, and the dad doesn't contest it. Dad agrees he's dad, and so they litigate custody and child support. But then in comes this other issue out there, which is often overlooked, which is the last name of the child. So in a situation where the child is born, but the parents aren't married, a real issue gets to be whose last name does the child get? And in some cases, it's not an issue at all. In some cases, on the birth certificate itself, the child is given the dad's last name. You know, the mom agrees to do that, and the dad's happy about that as well. And that becomes a situation, which is the child has the last name of the dad, and this issue doesn't come into fruition at all. In other cases, it becomes a big deal. Take the situations where the mom puts her last name on the birth certificate. The dad's last name is not put on that birth certificate, and let's say this is a big issue to the father where he wants the child to have his last name, and this is what happens in lots of cases. Some cases, the dad doesn't mind the child having the mom's last name, but in some cases it becomes a big deal, And so the issue gets to be in these cases where the child's born out of wedlock, is given the last name of the mother, and the father's not pleased with this and wants the child to bear his last name. What do the unmarried fathers do in this situation? Well, the reality of the situation is, as part of a paternity case, the father can plead for the child's last name to be changed. And obviously the laws vary in different states. And different states have different technicalities and different procedures in terms of really the exact way that this is done. But in short, for the unmarried fathers out there who want to change the last name of the child, what they do as part of the paternity case, in other words, they file a custody case at the courthouse, and as part of that, they request that the court change the last name of the minor child to that of the father, and then order, in essence, that the birth certificate be amended to reflect that change of name. And in a lot of cases, it becomes, like I said, a heavily contested issue, where the dad wants the name changed, the mom doesn't want the name changed, and then you get into a big question of, well, what happens in these cases, and what is the likelihood that the court would change the last name of the minor child from the mother's name to the father's name? And obviously, this is going to vary case by case. Every case is different. Different judges ultimately can rule on these cases in lots of different ways. They have a great deal of discretion in terms of whether to grant a change of name or not grant a change of name to that of the father. And ultimately, what's most important is what's in the best interest of the child. I mean, that's generally speaking what a judge is looking at. Is it in the child's best interest to have the father's last name, or is it in the child's best interest to have the mother's last name? And again, this becomes a heavily dependent situation based on the facts. So a judge would typically look at these cases and they'd be interested in the involvement level of the father, the motives, and then again, you're looking at what's in the best interest of this child. And again, there's no bright line rules. Different judges do different things. But generally speaking, as a general rule, what we tend to see at our firm is this, which is the younger the child, the better the likelihood that the court would change the child's last name. So if the child hasn't started school yet, that is oftentimes helpful to the father, because the child maybe isn't at this point. I mean, if a child's 2, 3, 4 years old, they haven't started school for full time. Maybe the concept of their last name hasn't set in, and so changing that last name to that of the father wouldn't cause any harm to the child. And a lot of judges would rule in that situation that it might be in the best interest of the child to do so. So then, past that, courts are going to look at the involvement level of the father. Is this a father who's involved? What's the motives of the father? That obviously can weigh very heavily on the minds of lots of judges. If, in terms of support, financial support, has a father been providing financial support to the child, either through a court order or otherwise? Obviously, that can be something that the courts look at as well. But again, as a general rule, the younger the child, the more pure the motives of the father in terms of trying to have the name changed. When looking at the involvement of the father, whether they provided financial support and the age level in which they've tried to seek the change of name, really the better the chances for the father. In more and more cases, we have seen judges begin hyphenating names as a compromise. So, in some cases, you'll see judges hyphenate the name. So, the mother's name hyphen the father's name, or you can even flip that around. In some cases, judges do that, and we've seen this in certain cases. In some cases, hyphenation might even be a compromise between both parents' positions, where they're able to settle on that hyphenation versus having to go to court and do a trial and put the whole things in the hands of the judge. So you see that as kind of an increasing trend as well. But that's in essence really the topic. And so the key is unmarried fathers out there, the child doesn't have your last name, you're interested in having the child have your last name. Really the proper way to go about this is through paternity case at the courthouse, where as part of the pleadings you plead the name change and you do it appropriately and that it's in the best interest of the child. And again, it's case by case. It's up to the judge heavily dependent upon the facts. But that's the process, and that's really the remedy out there for the fathers that are looking to change the last name of the minor child. So, again, that is the topic here today. Is a follow-up to the episode. Go to familylawheadquarters.com. There's an article on there, March 31st, 2015, titled, When Can a Child's Last Name Be Changed? And you can read that as a follow-up to the episode today. So from there, thanks to all the listeners for tuning in. We'll see you next time on Family Law Talk with Stange Law Firm. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to Family Law Talk with Kirk Stange. Visit StangeLawFirm.com for more about today's topic, or to put Stange Law Firm to work for your family today.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.